You know, I'm so upset with myself because I didn't think that at my age I would be lied to. Because this is not the man we voted for.
Oh, that's a serious indictment.
And I said, my brother, if it's any consolation, you're not the only one. We are many. You see, the expectations were very high. Because personally, I never thought there would be things would get worse than they were under PF. Because PF was in decline. And success, a person in the position of President Hichilema, would be just arresting the decline is already a success. You know, it's like you have a truck without brakes, sliding, right? So you are successful in just stopping that truck.
Before you attend to the brakes.
Before you even, your primary objective is simply to arrest it. Not to end up in a river or in a ditch. You've already succeeded. That is all what was expected. But we arrested the momentum. But what has happened?
Watch the entire video, my lovely viewers, from start to finish, to get the whole thing. Without wasting much of your time, let's get right into it. Hi lovely viewers, it's me again, your one and only Mutati Mpundu. Welcome to my YouTube channel. If this is your first time on my channel, kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel by hitting the red subscribe button down below and turn the bell icon to join the notification squad. Don't forget to like, share and leave a comment. Tell me what you think about this video in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you lovely viewers.
To other organs, but I think we need to give priority to the judiciary.
Sure. Yeah.
Yes, because once that collapses, I'm always a firm believer that, you know what, it's okay to have a corrupt president. A country can survive with a corrupt president, corrupt MPs, but once your judges are also corrupt, you're finished as a country. So
the state collapses.
Yes, yeah. So coming to, that is what I would say. It wasn't a complete disaster, obviously, as like they say, even a broken clock gets it right once or twice
a day.
Yeah, so, yeah.
This now brings me to your review on President Hakainde Hichilema. He's won. It's even a personal triumph to you, because this journey, as you've demonstrated, the personal risks you took, and many Zambians benefited in President Hakainde Hichilema. He's been in office for 2.5 years. Give me a review.
Well, there's somebody who called me. He's, I think, much older than me. Could be in his 70s. He's been a follower of Zambian politics. And he said, you know what? I'm very upset with myself. I said, but why? I said, I got duped. Duped by the who? I said, but this man in State House. And I said, you know, I'm so upset with myself because I didn't think that at my age I would be lied to. Because this is not the man we voted for.
Oh, that's a serious indictment.
And I said, my brother, if it's any consolation, you're not the only one. We are many. You see, the expectations were very high. Because personally, I never thought there would be things would get worse than they were under PF. Because PF was in decline. And success, a person in the position of President Hichilema would be just arresting the decline is already a success. You know, it's like you have a truck without brakes, sliding, right? So you are successful in just stopping that truck.
Before you attend to the brakes.
Before you even, your primary objective is simply to arrest it, not to end up in a river or in a ditch. You've already succeeded. That is all what was expected. But we arrested the momentum. But what has happened? It's like that was just a temporary situation, and the truck is let loose. This is just my personal view, which is that I did not expect, if we are to evaluate the two presidents, Lungu and Hichilema, I would forgive Lungu for his shortcomings, but I wouldn't forgive Hichilema for his shortcomings. The reason is, Lungu was an accident. Lungu never planned to be president. Death occurred, and he found himself in a certain place. I think if you remember, Lungu was described as umupiani.
True.
Okay? He was in the right place at the right time. He never aspired. I knew Lungu when we were together, of course. I don't think other people would say Lungu had presidential ambitions before that time. But Hichilema is different. He's been crying for this office for 15 years. Now, having fought for it, the expectation is that given a chance, you know what to do. But I've said to somebody close to him, and I said, you know, failure for President Hichilema is a choice. President Hichilema has chosen to fail. Let me explain what I mean by that. This country's next year will be 60 years. So, Hichilema and the rest of us lived under 27 years under Kaunda. By the time Kaunda was being removed, we were mature enough. We understood the dynamics, what was happening. This system was one extreme system. It was a one-party state where government controlled everything. You know, I remember those of us who grew up on the Copper Belt, the miners, they used to get an allowance called Indalama Shamusana.
Yeah.
If you remember, I don't know whether you understand what it means.
Yes, they were encouraging more population.
That's right. So for every child, if you're working for ZCCM, they gave you an allowance. So literally, government even entered your bedroom, you know, and you produce, first of all, when I tell this to people, they can't believe it. ZCCM used to give nappies to newly born babies. You went to a minor hospital. In fact, as parents, you didn't even need to buy anything. I think even baby milk was given. And then after you finish, your child reaches level to go to nursery. You went to nursery done by ZCCM, went to school by ZCCM. Everything was literally provided. But that system was clearly unsustainable. It worked up to a certain point. Its failure was the inability to reform, to adapt to the. It was good it was justifiable up to a certain, from the beginning. But when it grew, it failed to adapt and it collapsed. Then we chucked out that system and brought in another system in 91, which we are now calling a free market, liberal democracy, and so forth. I think if you remember, that was a slogan by President Chiluba. Government has no business in business.
True.
so which meant privatize. So what happened? This was now another extreme. One situation whereby government controlled all the businesses, and the other extreme, government had absolutely nothing to do with business. But both systems failed. One party state saddled us with a debt of $7 billion. That free market system, liberal democracy, over 30 years, shared between, which comprised 20 years of MMD, 10 years of PF, that system also collapsed. By 2021, we ended up with a debt of $15 billion. If you look at per capita, debt per capita, it's exactly the same. We ended up at the same position. We're in the same position we were in 1991. So, I have said, with these two experiences, Hichilema's the experiences from both systems. In my view, work was very easy, is to be able to collect what worked in 30 years here, what worked here, package it. Because the country has never taken a center position. What needed for the country was to try the center, which has never been tried before, where you have a combination of what worked there and what worked this side, and then package something. He has not done that. And I think I was saying that the situations are similar, but there is one radical difference. Hichilema is not Chiluba. There's a radical difference. And one of the things stands out is that between the two men, I think Chiluba understood government, whereas Chiluba, doesn't understand government and how government works. Chiluba understood government, and Chiluba understood
the people.
He understood the people. He understood the government. He understood the challenges. And I think he was more truthful and more honest to the people. And that is why throughout he was able to carry out these brutal reforms, and nobody ever rioted. The reason was he was truthful from the beginning. He never fabricated reality. He never manufactured reality. He told the people openly, things are bad. Are you ready to make sacrifices? And people said, yes, we are ready. And he put it as it was. In fact, Chiluba, I would say, under-promised and over-delivered. Now what we have is a situation where you over-promise and delivery zero. But that is not even the major problem. The major problem is that we all know there is a difference between campaigning and governing. When you are campaigning, you make all manner of promises. But when you're in government, it's different. Now reality dawns. But that is not even the problem. I think Hichilema's task was also quite easy. What was required was to go back to the people. I've been in office 3 months, 6 months. I have seen the situation. I promised free education. I promised this. I promised this. I promised this. The reality is we can't achieve those things. Why? The truth is we have no money as a country. Zambians would understand. But he has not done that. Instead, he's manufacturing success, is manufacturing reality. But that can only take you so far. So,
why has it failed?
I don't have an answer to that. And I keep asking myself. And I said, listen, you know, you can only do what you can with the resources available. But I think his inability, I think it's the inability to, if I was to guess, I think what he has just failed is to go back to the people and explain and go back, to be seen as going back against his word. No, it's not. It's about being realistic. Nobody, first of all, if I may backtrack, nobody expected HH to solve Zambia's problems in 5 years. Oh, nobody expected that. Okay? But the expectation was it was going to start to put the country on the right footing towards the realization of those goals. But what is there is that you don't see that. There are a few major mistakes he's made, which makes him pale in comparison to Chiluba. Chiluba, I think, understood where power was. He had the power. And he understood the role of his ministers, that they work for him. And if you look at the first cabinet of President Chiluba, it had the best brains in the country. And they made decisions that ultimately made Chiluba look very good. The first sign of danger for me with HH was, first of all, the period it took to put together cabinet. I think it took him almost 3 months.
Yes.
Now, unless you're an accidental president, but if you have gone for an election, like everybody else, they say, when you go for an election, you prepare 2 speeches, a session speech and a victory speech, because you don't know, you're in the hands of the people. With the victory speech, you also have a tentative cabinet. Now, to have taken that long, that already meant trouble. Nobody goes to school to train as president. Nobody goes to school to train as minister. So when you go there, is try and error. But the most important thing is to try, not to leave that vacuum. And I think somebody did ask me, what do you think of HH? And I said, well, let's wait for his cabinet first. When the names came out, they were a completely uninspiring lot. And today people blame them for the government shortcomings. You don't blame the ministers. You blame the president because the buck stops with them.
He's the one that picked them up.
Yes. Our system of government is such that that's why all the parliament is dissolved, everybody else, they go. You have to reconstitute the government. So you have no baggage. So you're going there to put your own structures so that you don't have an excuse. And even the kind of excuses I heard one time somebody was saying, well, don't think with the election of HH then corruption ended. I said, listen, you're now in charge. If there is corruption, that is your problem. Okay, you should have put in place measures to address those challenges. So from that perspective, there was a serious error. Look at the composition. The composition is completely uninspiring. And also, you don't get a clear policy direction. Maybe you have. I haven't heard anything. Bottom line, from my perspective, I would say the president has no vision for this country. That is the bottom line. And, you know, when you have a vision, even if it is a bad vision, it's better than no vision at all. Look at Kaunda, for instance.
In fact, I was coming to that point. Over this program, during this program, you've touched on every president. What are your ratings? Who do you think we've had 7 presidents,
Yes.
is the best president Zambia has ever had? And who do you think in your ranking is the worst president?
I would, we may have to exclude those that are like President Sata, because he never finished his term, and also President
Manawasa.
Banda.
Oh,
Manawasa was there for 8 years. Banda was only a
3 years.
a short period of time. But in historical context, this is how I would put it. I would put President Lungu and President Kaunda in the same basket. I would put President Hichilema and Frederick Chiluba in the same basket. Let me explain by what I mean by that. Kaunda inherited a good economy. By 1991, that economy was trashed. So, but at least it did that. Over 27 years, we had a debt of 27 billion, of 7 billion. Then you have President Lungu, who inherits quite a good economy, very low external debt. I think when Arabi left power, the external debt was less than $2 billion.
1.5. President Michael Sata took over $1.5
billion. But when President Lungu was leaving office, and then we have to be realistic, we cannot, but numbers are there. And I always believe that you can't build a country through lies. You have to be honest about it. By the time 10 years, we had borrowed externally well in excess of $15 billion. So, you get a good economy. And by the way, the exchange rate when President Sata took over, I think on a rebased basis, would have been, in today's terms, would have been, I think, $1, 3/4 for every dollar. That's what it was, 3/4. With 3/4, you'd buy $1. Today, by the time President Lungu was leaving, I think the exchange rate had gone to, I think his maximum was about 23/4.
Yeah, in July it was 23, but by the time he left in August, it had come down to around 17.
That's right. Those were just basically sentiments. I think that was a reflection of the faith that, I'm not an economist, but for me, I'm looking at it to say that appreciation was simply a reading of the confidence, of the anticipation of what President Hichilema was going to bring to the table. They expected discipline, they expected good performance, and they expected really the opposite of President Lungu. But the decline of the kwacha, of course, other than that, those issues, is also a reflection of loss of confidence in Hichilema's leadership. That is why you see the kwacha is going crazy. So, I would classify them in those categories. Basically, you inherit something, you trash it. You inherit something, you trash it. For me, not because I spent days with him for all these things, for years, I would classify Chiluba perhaps as the best president we ever had. Because he had to take the toughest decision that no president has ever taken in this country. You know, it's not easy to hurt people. It's not easy to introduce policies that you know will affect your people. But President Chiluba had no choice. In economic terms, what HH inherited from Lungu is paradise compared to what
Chiluba inherited from
Kaunda. There was no economy there. Everything was just, you'd say it was like a desert, everything broken. But he took the tough decisions. But as usual, when you may introduce policies, you don't see immediate benefits. The appreciation of the kwacha, remember the debt forgiveness came in about 2000.
Into Mwanawasa's government.
Into Mwanawasa's. but was also simply was reaping from the policies of President Chiluba. Okay, because it's like planting a tree. You will see the fruits maybe long after the person that planted is long gone. Perhaps the most difficult, I think, forward-looking decision that Chiluba ever made, in my opinion, was the decision to unbundle ZCCM, to sell it as...
Because it was a monopoly.
A monopoly. It was a conglomerate. It was one unit with divisions. But the idea to break it up, sell mines individually to various interested parties, I think that was the most brilliant decision, which I think has transformed this country. Because what would have happened, I have no doubt in my mind, if I thought they had sold ZCCM to one entity, which was the Kafue Consortium, what would have happened is that that consortium would have gotten ZCCM for next to nothing, and they themselves would have now started selling off
the units.
And
they would have made billions.
That have made far much more money, and perhaps it would have...
And also that would have translated to having one from public monopoly to one private monopoly. The
yes.
same power now lying
in the private individuals sector. You can't control. So that was... So these were tough decisions. People died. I know this for certain. People died during the time of Chiluba because of the policies. And if Chiluba was weak, he would have faltered. But he assured the people, we have no choice. We have, I think the slogan was, we have to eat sap in the morning, sap for lunch, sap for dinner. We have no choice. We have to walk this. We have to walk this. Now, those were tough decisions, which made him very unpopular, but he had no choice. Now, it takes courage not to be populist, because if he was populist, he would have abandoned the policies.
Dr. Kaunda had started those policies and abandoned them several times.
Yes, I remember Kaunda was, because when he became tough, he says, listen, don't force me to start killing my own people by implementing these policies. Kaunda lost the nerve. He couldn't carry through that. You remember we started with structural adjustment program by the IMF. We abandoned them to say, no, we'll work on our own.
We even withdrew being members of the IMF.
That's right. We said, no, we'll work on our own homegrown structural adjustment program. Those never worked. Okay, but Chiluba came in, and throughout that 10 years, he carried out some tough decisions. And by the time he was leaving, there were green shoots were coming out, but they became full-blown during the reign of president
and subsequent
presidents. And we came to see the full, genuine, the fruits during Arabi's time. I remember Arabi, even when he started those projects were not started with borrowed money. He had surplus. Okay? And I remember Arabi even telling some of the donors to say, if you're not happy with things in Zambia,
you can leave.
You can leave. Why?
And he wasn't now relying on budget support.
No. I mean, we were truly a sovereign Republic of Zambia. We had control of our own destiny. That is why the president felt emboldened to even tell the donors. But again, if you are depending on 30-40% of your budget from donors, you can't talk like that, because they can
pull the plug.
They can pull the plug. So,
Council, we have talked about the troubles of this country, troubled leadership, the difficulties and challenges we've gone through. I think we've had a full cycle. We've done 60 years.
Yes.
What should be done?
I wish I had an answer to that, but I can only theorize from myself, from my own perspective. Ambassador, it's painful. This takes me back to when I was growing up in Kitwe. if you remember, I don't know how much you know about the Copper Belt, but those from the Copper Belt would know. We used to have scenarios where Senegalese used to be rounded up in Kitwe.
In cleanups.
In cleanups and deported. They would come back because of these Muslim names. He comes back with a new passport under a new name. Those days, things were not computerized, so there is no fingerprints. A joke, it's not really a joke, but these are things we hear behind the scenes that people from other countries that have come here in Zambia talk about these things. And I remember one exchange where a Senegalese and a Zambian were arguing. So the Zambian says, "You Senegalese, why is it that you like coming to Zambia?
Even after we deport you.
After we deport you." Then the Senegalese laughed and says, "You know why we come here? We come here because the streets of Zambia are littered with gold. But this gold is only visible to foreigners." It was an offensive statement, but true. We don't see the opportunities that we have. And I'm sure we have had experiences. People that have come to this country with absolutely nothing, and they have turned themselves. I know of a number of friends that came here without education, without nothing, and then they have ended up becoming multimillionaires in dollars, whilst we, the Zambians, are still wallowing in poverty. Now, there is a reason for that. Yes, they come here, but they work hard. There is a change in attitude and everything. But in the meantime, we continue to expend our efforts on completely useless issues, instead of focusing on the real issues that matter. We consume ourselves with things that are completely unnecessary. I mean, look at the issue of, we're now talking about the Barotse land issue. Really? The real issue we should be talking about is the economy. How do we transform the rest of the country? That is what we should be focusing on. But the question is, why have we not succeeded? In all these things, I think we have not been fortunate enough to have selfless leaders. All the leaders we have had.
Part of our failure is also part of leadership failure.
Leadership failure. All the leaders we have had, they've all been selfish. They start good when in office, but once in office, instead of focusing on delivering, what do? They start trying to consolidate power.
Their stay.
As a result, they begin to pay more attention on their stay as opposed to meeting their needs, the promises they made to the people. When you look at Kaunda, many people do not know this. Throughout his 27 years in power, Kaunda had only one competitive election, which he won.
The 1968 election.
The 1968 election. Okay? Which he nearly lost anyway, but that frightened him. And that's how he ended up introducing one-party state in 1972. The second competitive election was 91, which he lost.
So he had two competitive elections.
Throughout his political career. Two competitive elections, one of which he narrowly won, and the second one which he lost. But why did he introduce one-party state? Yes, there are various reasons, given stability, whatnot, but the real reason was a desire to stay in power. That long stay in power destroyed things because it became uncontrollable. They embarked on policies that ultimately destroyed the economy. President Chiluba did the same thing. The changes to the Constitution in 96 to Bakaunda were totally unnecessary. all what he needed. He was guaranteed of a win. But for some reason, like we have talked about, what if Kaunda wins? But they don't realize that their stay is conditioned upon performance. And they don't realize that they are simply tenants in State House for a certain period.
They are not landlords.
They are not landlords. When they go, they begin to think like they are landlords.
And that the house is theirs.
That's right. Now, when you see again Chiluba, the biggest disaster for Chiluba was the attempt to go for a third term. Although it was a bit sato, you couldn't find his, he didn't say, but his fingerprints were all over. That again was an attempt to ignore the people's will. President Mwanawas, although they talk about these things, you realize that the Mungomba Constitutional Review Commission was introduced long before the election of 2006.
Yeah.
The idea was that that constitution was supposed to come into place before the election of 2006. But what did he do? He ignored it, because the constitution of 96 was more favorable. He didn't want
1991.
Of 1991 as amended in 96 was more favorable. Arabi, it suited him because under the 1996 constitution, you can go in through a simple majority. Arabi also the same thing. He had no interest. In fact, he even dropped to the ball. He didn't even manage to have the bill floated in the National Assembly. Then you see President Lungu. The story is still very fresh, what he did, and there was no need to go for a third term. And there is this inability to understand and respect for people. As for President Hichilema, the jury is still out, but the danger we face is what is going to happen between now and 2026. Is Hichilema going to be selfless enough to allow the Constitution to remain and ensure that there is a free and fair election with the possibility that he might lose? Is he likely to be selfless enough to allow that possibility? The indicators so far are that no, that is not likely to happen. So the biggest threat to our democracy now is between now and 2026. And that is why you have that talk about amendment of the Constitution. And you have the confusion within PF. Oh, that is all politics in readiness for. I hope I'm wrong, but my reading of it all is that this is all a prelude to 2026 in terms of improving his chances of re-election. But what you see is failure, first of all, to respect the will of the people. And re-election is quite easy. It's quite easy in my opinion, because when people elect you, they're the bosses. Now, if you have done a good job, they'll give you another chance. Now, instead of focusing on that, you have faith in the electorate to get you elected, but you lose faith for re-election from the same people. And yet it's very simple. Hey, it's like somebody, if I'm an employer, I can choose to renew your contract or not to renew.
And it's driven by performance.
It's driven by performance, yes. Now, if you are a performer, why would we fail to renew your contract? But it is when you lose attention on things that matter, the thing that can guarantee you re-election is performance. When you fail to perform, go back to the people and explain why you have failed to perform. And if your reasons are genuine, people understand. So at the end of the day, we are, like right now, we're talking politics. Who is running our businesses? It's not Zambians. And my hope and prayer is that I think we'll reach a stage whereby we wake up and give priority. First of all, we need to settle our governance system in place. Because again, and this is why I oppose the amendment of the Constitution, because when you go to amend the Constitution, it means you're tampering with the foundation of the country. Okay? Let's forget the Constitution. Let's focus on building on that Constitution, which means addressing the economic and social challenges that the country face. In a nutshell, I would attribute our challenges really to governance. We have not been blessed. What we need, I think, we have to look forward is that, you know, a country is as good as its leaders. You elect crooks and criminals, that's what you will reap.
Yeah.
You know, so I think we have to find a way in which we have to make sure that we elect good people to office. And so far, we continue to be betrayed by the people we elect.
Professor Lumumba says Africans surprise him because they get a hyena to look after the goats.
That's right.
And when the goats are eaten, they are
We get surprised.
What would be your last words?
Ambassador, I'm a very sad person because 60 years is too long a period to remain a poor country. 60 years is too long a period to remain a developing country. If you are developing for 60 years, when are you going to truly develop? You know? And my plea would be to ask each and every Zambian to be able to reflect on this and realize that the responsibility to develop Zambia is in the hands of Zambians. We have to come to accept the fact that nobody else, nobody will come and develop this country.
No one is coming forward.
Nobody is coming, and no amount of prayer will develop this country. The Lord has given us everything. All what we just need to do is to be responsible, each and every one of us. You see, developing a country is a collective responsibility between the governed and those given the responsibility to govern. You don't want a president who is going to behave like a headmaster, telling people what to do. No, he must hear what the people are telling him and then be able to implement that. I think we need to wake up to the reality that we need to chart a new course for the country because 60 years is too long. We have to make a deliberate. What more evidence of failure do we need to gather? There is so much evidence of failure around us. And even the recent outbreak of cholera is you see, it's a sign of a failed system, you know, and you find all these ministers reacting, what. It means that nobody has a sense of foresight. There is no planning. Nobody has any idea. You know, it's like a country on autopilot. And we have to stop this idea. We talk too much. We talk too much. We need to stop talking and do more action. And we must be able to accept the fact that, and we need to move away from this notion that foreign investors will develop your country. That is a myth. We have been inviting foreign investors in the last 30 years since the return to multi-party and free market. This country has been open for free investment, for foreign investment in the last 30 years. What is the prognosis? It's negative, okay? And now, out of desperation, people start now boasting about pledges.
Yeah.
ZDA is now announcing pledges.
For 40 billion.
40, I mean, that is nothing. That is now, again, part of manufacturing reality. But what we need to understand is Zambia can only be developed by Zambians. People from outside, they will come because they've seen opportunities. But again, the door should not just be open to any form of foreign investment. It has to be foreign investment that is also beneficial to the people. You see, recently the president was talking about celebrating $80 million of investment. Is it by Zambian, whatever that brewery is?
Yes, Zambia Breweries.
Zambia Breweries. Now, the point is, how much of that $80 million was actually spent here? Okay? Most of these projects, they come like a tanky project, whereby everything, including your bolts and nuts, including the labor, they're already sourced. So the only thing that may be Zambian would be maybe concrete, okay, to provide the platform for the factory. And what is that out of the 90 million? So even when we celebrate this investment, we have to critically analyze these things. We're not opposed to foreign investment, but it has to be foreign investment which leads to a win-win situation. Because at the end of the day, don't forget, whatever dividends will be generated will be taken out to the shareholders. Okay, and here what are we left with? Basically peanuts. So we need, I think, to do less politics, and I think let's try and focus more about the economy and try and see how we can put this country forward. Like we started off, we had said that the GDP of China in 1964 was $85. Today, the GDP per capita of China is well in excess of $15,000, whereas Zambia is just about a tenth of that, which is 1,500. But the point is that that did not come as a miracle. It came through planning, wise leadership, forward thinking, and hard work. And we can do that. I'm not an advocate that we can replicate the Chinese experience like I've heard from other opposition political parties. We have generated enough data for us to be able to chart our own economic path that can work for Zambia and based on the Zambian experience.
Oh, wonderful. This was a deep insight, not only in your life, but in the life of our country. And I think our viewers will appreciate the insights and I think reflections that you've provided. And I think for the first time, people will understand who John Sangwa is.
Hopefully.
So thank you for staying with us. We're featuring, Mr. John Sangwa. State Council is a partner at Smeza Sangwa, and partner is a well-renowned constitutional lawyer and has been very well known, for his civil activism. Until next time, shalom and see you. God bless this country. God bless you. And thank you, Mr. Sangwa, for this privilege to walk with us, through the life of this country, through your eyes.
Thank you very much, and thank you for inviting me.
Thank you.
This is DJ Mutati exclusive.
Alright, that's all for you today, lovely viewers. If you did enjoy the video, please don't forget to leave a comment in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about the video you just watched in the comment section below. I'll be super glad to hear from you, lovely viewers. Once again, I go by the name of Mutati Mpundu. I love you, peace, I gotta go.